From the heart of Bulldog Country, this is Sports Central on Bulldog Sports TV, brought to you by Harrison County Community Hospital. We're your weekly home for in-depth coverage, highlights, and insider insight on everything South Harrison Bulldogs. Whether it's game-winning moments or what's coming up next, Sports Central is your front row seat to it all. It's time to break it down, fire it up, and celebrate Bulldog pride like never before. Let's join your host, CF Rainey and Andrew Sweat.
All right, CF Rainey, Andrew Sweat here on Sports Central, again brought to you by Harrison County Community Hospital. We welcome you in as we talk all things South Harrison athletics. And Andrew, we'll go over just a couple things, golf. And so they've had a couple rainouts, but last week they repeated as tournament champs down in Chillicothe. Abby Owens took third. Ainsley Clint took fourth. And so those two especially just keep racking up medals. And then on Tuesday, last night, they went to Trenton and won that meet. Abby Owens was first. Ainsley Clint was second. And so South Harrison Ladies Golf continues to roll. They're getting ready here in the next week or so for districts, and then hopefully at least get some of them qualified for state. I know Abby Owens has won each year that she's been in golf, and so I know Coach Watson excited about that. And then volleyball, actually, I will be live streaming volleyball live tomorrow night from South Harrison, and the goal is to do an interview with assistant coach Jess Estes sometime in the next day or so, and to get that out. But they're 3-3 in their last 6. We kind of talked about volleyball. The start of their season after that first home match was really tough. I mean, going against some really good volleyball schools, but they've evened out over their last 6 to go 3-3. They're 4-9 overall, but you can see they picked up a lot of those wins here just recently. Then tomorrow night we'll be on Bulldog Sports TV as they take on Trenton, a team that they beat earlier in the season. And so that is the information we have for those two sports right now. I'm going to switch over to this and bring up talking about softball, Andrew. And so last week, South Harrison still has one GRC game left. That'll be tomorrow night at Putnam County. But they guaranteed the GRC championship when Gallatin dropped their second game. And so South Harrison, even if they were to lose tomorrow night to Putnam County, I interviewed Coach Aaron Fitzpatrick today. Their goal is to go undefeated in conference. And so that just kind of lets you see where the standings are as far as the GRC in softball. And actually, right now, they're just starting over in Albany tonight, playing a Wednesday night game. And so that'll be interesting, Andrew, because South Harrison is the GRC, top of the GRC. Albany is top of what is now called the GRC West. Mm-hmm. And so those two teams facing off. And I know you know a number of the players for South Harrison. They got a bunch of seniors, sophomore pitcher, a couple of juniors at different places as well. And so they've had a really good season so far. Just 16-7, but they've played a crazy, crazy schedule.
Yeah, from what it sounds like, the strength of schedule is probably a lot tougher than a lot of the GRC teams that they played so far. But 7-0, looking for 8-0. That'll be huge, rolling into playoff season.
Yeah, and so Coach Aaron Fitzpatrick, who's a Ridgeway guy, and he and I talked about it in his interview, and his wife Danielle graduated from South Harrison. And they're both here now, but they spent a number of years over in Unionville, Putnam County. So kind of going back home to go over and have to get a win over there tomorrow night. And so the other thing we'll talk about, and one we're probably a little more familiar with, is the GRC standings in football. And so before we talk about South Harrison's game last week, Andrew, we'll kind of look at this. The game you and I had been talking about was that Putnam County Brookfield game, with South Harrison hoping that maybe Brookfield could get the win, but Putnam County gets that, and so they set atop the standings here. So just kind of looking at that, we've seen a few of these teams, a few of them we haven't seen yet, just what the GRC looks like to you here.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because where we're sitting, obviously we're in that second spot right now, but you have those two teams below us who we haven't seen yet that, we think are pretty good, Brookfield and Gallatin. So those are two tough teams. Obviously, we played Putnam County couldn't quite get that win. They're they're definitely in the driver's seat of the GRC at this point. Probably unlikely they're going to drop a couple. But you know how it's looking. We got that big Brookfield game coming up, and then Gallatin, and obviously got to take care of business against Polo and Maysville. You don't want to drop those, as those should be, automatic wins.
No, and that's one of those. Putnam's already played us in Brookfield, so really as far as looking at schedules go, they only have. I'm trying to see. Let me go over to their schedule here real quick.
I assume they still play Marceline, probably.
Yeah, well, no, they played Marceline before us, so they've played Marceline as well. So they have Polo this week, then Scotland County, the same out of conference we had, then Gallatin and Milan. And so if you're a South Harrison fan, your next hope probably just looking at schedules would be that Gallatin could find a way to upset Putnam County as Putnam County is able to get that victory over Brookfield. But South Harrison still has, right, you don't want to overlook anyone. And I talked to Coach Chris Schoening earlier in the week, and we'll have that on Friday. But even those teams, Maysville, Polo, those teams that are down towards the bottom, we've already seen Milan and Trenton. You just don't want to overlook anyone going on the road because we'll be on the road at Gallatin, Polo, and Maysville. So Brookfield's the only home game we'll have left out of that group. And so on the road's different. And you want to make sure you're taking care of business, staying away from injuries, all those things. So let's look back at that win over Trenton, homecoming win last week, kind of a familiar score we saw for South Harrison with their ability to put 42 up there on the scoreboard.
Yeah, I was super impressed again, both offense and defense. South Harrison, they've just been doing exactly what they need to do all season. I feel like they're really, putting all the effort out there. This team obviously has a lot of talent, and sometimes teams who are really talented can kind of play down to their opponent, which I feel like we've done in the past. But this year, they're really sticking to their guns, and this is an experienced team we see. And obviously, you saw it last week, homecoming against Trenton. I mentioned all week, Trenton's a team that might play you tough, but we definitely, blew them out of the water in that game. Trenton really just didn't have a lot going, no answers for Coffee and Galloway, and overall just a really good victory.
Yeah, and it's something, and I know you broadcast South Harrison games last year, and you had a younger brother played, so you've seen a lot of South Harrison football over the last few years. And the one thing, and Coach Schoening mentioned it to me, I think, Andrew, the one thing they're doing this year that they didn't do last year, even though they had all those guys that were juniors last year, is they're getting off to quicker starts. And what that means in a game, just being able to score early and get those leads, 7 or 14-0 early.
And the one game that we did lose this year, we didn't get a quick start. Obviously had the, special teams issues early in that game against Putnam County. So that's kind of, goes along with what you're saying there. If we can get a good start, we can get some confidence early. That's usually how the game plays out. So that's going to be pivotal with these, what do we have, 4 games left on the schedule to get a hot start and, try to get a win streak, keep it alive going into districts.
Yeah, and it's one of those, looking back at last week, Andrew, South Harrison kicked off, and right away it was their defense. Mason Galloway gets an interception. I think it was down inside the red zone. If not, it was very close to the 20, if not inside the 20. Their offense was able to score. Defense comes back out, gets another stop. That was the one, right? The snap went over the punter's head, and so set them up on a very, very short field. They were able to put it in, and it looked like South Harrison was really rolling, kind of like we saw against Scotland County, where it looked like, hey, they're going to just continue to roll. Stagnated just a little bit there for a little bit offensively, and you never really felt Trenton threatened South Harrison, but when they got that score right before half, they did get a little momentum in that game.
Yeah, and that was the little bit of life that they did have in the game. I feel like, we've seen a lot of good football from South Harrison this season, but we really haven't seen a complete game. And I think Coach Schoening would probably agree with me on that. It's tough for a football team to have a complete game, but when you have this much talent, it definitely is possible. Like you said in that Trenton game, just right before half, we kind of let up, a big touchdown pass over the head of the safeties. If they would have just, made a play on tackle the player instead of make a play on the ball, that probably would have been prevented. But, there's still a lot of football left, and I'm excited to see if we can, go ahead and do that. And Maysville would be a good team to have a complete game on.
Well, and that's it. Maysville's sitting down there towards the bottom of the conference, them and Milan. And it becomes one of those, and you've played down there, Maysville. I remember, honestly, I think, was that your freshman year you guys played at Maysville?
Yeah.
Because I remember watching that game, and you and the rest of the freshmen that were stuck in playing. That was a tough one down there. The only good thing out of that game is Maysville usually has a pretty good pork burger that you can get there at the concession stand. But that was a rough one. And so you're playing down there between the two cemeteries, and you're kind of down in that bowl, and they've got their crowd and everything going. So you want to make sure you don't go and drop something you don't. But you look at the last 3 games, right? Marceline, Scotland County, Trenton. South Harrison scored 42 in each of those, only giving up 1 touchdown each of those. And for the most part, those 1 touchdowns were on just one big play where there was a bit of a break. It wasn't like long extended drives where the other team just grounded out. It was just one little mistake of missing an assignment that gave up a play. And that probably has to make you feel real good about your defense there, that you haven't just let teams just run all over you, that it's just been a little breakdown mentally or something like that.
Yeah, the defense is obviously solid. Like you're saying, just the consistency, though. You got to be there on every play, because if, you let one play up, or, don't know what the play call is and just let it slide, that could have big ramifications, obviously. And even in that Putnam game, there was like kind of big crazy plays that Putnam had go their way, and we just didn't really have a good response to that offensively. But can't let up those mistakes. Like I said, gotta play a complete game.
And it becomes one of those. South Harrison's done a really good job since that Putnam County game. Again, there have been a couple of drives where they bogged down. Sometimes it's a penalty that's caused a drive to maybe not get into the end zone. But working that running game behind that offensive line. And Trenton had a big defense. I mean, they had a big line and a big defensive line. One really big linebacker, that number 11 for Trenton. But South Harrison, even though they got stymied a couple times, were able to finally get that running game going consistently. And then that opened up some passes, and we saw a little more pass offense from Jet Cornett and that South Harrison offense.
Yeah, and since we were so good on the run game, that Trenton defense really didn't get any pressure on Cornett, so it did allow us to flourish a little bit more, get a little bit creative in the play calling, do some passing. And Jet Cornett, we've talked about it all season. He probably didn't come into this season thinking he was going to be quarterback, and he's done a pretty good job of, taking the team under his belt in the offense. And really just, we have that option. A lot of the times in the past at South Harrison, purely a run offense, you couldn't really pass it, but we have the option to pass now. That could be a good weapon in our pocket towards the end of the year.
Well, and I think it's probably something we'll see in some of these games, like Maysville and Polo especially. But you're going to need to do that versus we still got Brookfield and Gallatin, those teams that we're tied with those teams, and we'll flip back here real quick. We're tied with those teams there in the GRC standing right behind Putnam County. And so while there's still a chance that you could tie for the win, you don't want to finish, if you're South Harrison, any worse than second right now. And that's completely in the Bulldogs' hands as they play those teams that are right behind them. And to do that, Andrew, you're going to have to be able to throw the ball just a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and looking at that, I mean, going back to Brookfield and Gallatin, those two teams we have not played. So we like where we're sitting now. Second, obviously, we'd like to be first. We need a little help there. But we definitely don't want to be fourth or even fifth with Polo there, because that would make things a little daunting. But, if we can just win out or split the Brookfield Gallatin, I think we'd be sitting pretty good.
Yeah, and so South Harrison at Maysville. Maysville struggled this year. Let me just pull them up here real quick. They haven't scored a lot of points. I can find that point differential. So they're averaging just barely over 8 points a game, where South Harrison's right about at 40 a game. And they're averaging giving up about 36, and South Harrison's down to like that 12 range. And so Maysville's really struggled offensively. So if you're South Harrison, you want to make sure you don't give up the big play, keep everything in front of you, and then just work that ground game, pop in a pass every once in a while, and see if you can't get out with the win down in Maysville.
Yeah, no reason we should end up with a loss this week in the loss column. We're definitely the better team. But you can't have that mindset. Like, you can have the mindset that we're the better team. You can't go in there like, oh, we're definitely going to win this game. Because you have to play this team like you're playing a Putnam County or a Brookfield. That's how you have to look at them. Even if realistically they're not that talented, you have to, as a player, walk into every game like it's the Super Bowl essentially. So,
Yeah,
and that's
the great thing, right?
Best.
We have the opportunity as talking heads, which is what we are here on the internet, that we can look ahead and we can kind of look at that. But I'm sure Coach Schoening and that coaching staff really trying to get their team focused in on this game Friday night. Hey, let's not think about next week with Brookfield coming in here for senior night, and we've got a ton of seniors. And so you can lose focus really easily. They did a great job last week with homecoming, not losing focus against what I thought, even though Trenton doesn't have a great record, just looking at them coming out onto the field, had some talent, obviously had some size, but South Harrison was able to come in and do what they needed to do. And so Andrew will be joining me Friday night in Maysville. From Maysville, we'll be live on Facebook and YouTube. I will be out at the high school tomorrow evening for volleyball. Make sure to follow Bulldog Sports TV on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube. We'll be having our coaching interviews coming. Coach Aaron Fitzpatrick with softball, Coach Chris Schoening Friday. We'll get that interview out Friday with varsity football. So big thanks again to Harrison County Community Hospital that sponsors our Sports Central content. And Andrew and I will see you Friday, and I'll be seeing you tomorrow evening live on Bulldog Sports TV with volleyball versus Trenton. So thanks a lot.
Yes, sir.